Your time there is about 9 evening, no?
It's
Can you
nine
hear me?
o'clock in the
Oh,
UK. Yeah.
today the yeah. Then I came to think, oh, next Tuesday, I was thinking 2 or 3 in the no, it's lunchtime, 11 morning for Ayya during the Tuesday eve.
Yeah, that's why I don't join the evening sessions. Alas, it's just I can't really manage, I think, through the morning. I wouldn't mind, but I have to look after my father, so I have to have a fairly regular sleep pattern, relatively regular.
Is it better now? No, I think Ayya, you mute yourself. Ayya, you are mute. I cannot hear you. Now I can hear you. So I was saying that we would like to arrange the program up to December. If there, we would like to invite Ayya. Is it possible?
Sorry, Venerable, I didn't catch most of that.
Oh, is it you? Uh, the sound is not good, right? Let me try. Take off
I
this
think
one.
it's the Wi-Fi, you're sort of freezing. Yeah, freezing every now and then.
Yeah, the line today it doesn't work well.
Oh, yeah.
The line today doesn't work. It's okay. Maybe I can put here in the chat room. Hi, Chris. Hi, Daniel.
Hello.
Hi, Elaine. So I think it is the time now. So we would like to invite Ayya Brahmavara to guide us on this session on Sutta study, Majjhima Nikaya 149, let me see again. Mahāsalāyatanika Sutta. Respectfully, we invite Ayya Brahmavara.
Thank you so much, Venerable, for your kind invitation. Welcome, friends, to this Sutta study group. And I think we could begin as usual. Perhaps, would it be okay, Venerable, to begin with a few minutes of meditation? Yeah, we'll do
Sure,
5 or
Ayya.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Usually
So
we'll
let's sit
have
quietly.
10 minutes of meditation.
Lovely. Let's sit quietly, and then we'll begin after 10 minutes of settling and arriving. So friends, we can open the eyes and begin to explore this sutta. Can everyone hear me okay? Great. Thank you. Yeah, we're going to look today at Majjhima 149, Mahāsalāyatanika Sutta. Salayatana is the 6 sense bases: ear, nose, eye, tongue, body, and mind. And Ika is sort of like around the 6 sense bases, reflections around the 6 sense bases. Maha at the beginning means great, often in terms of length of sutta, but this is actually quite a short sutta. But it is a great sutta, as you'll see. It is very complete teaching from the Buddha here. So I'm going to bring the sutta up and let's begin. Here we go. The Great Discourse on what relates to the 6 sense fields. So this is Bhante Sujato's translation here. I might reference Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation from time to time, but we'll go with this one because we have the Pali and the English line by line, which is very helpful for us. So I'd like to read a first section of the sutta, and then we'll have some conversation about it. Thus have I heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove and Nathapindika's monastery. There the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Venerable Sir, they replied, the Buddha said this: I shall teach you the Great Discourse on what relates to the 6 sense fields. Listen and apply your mind well. I will speak. Yes, sir, they replied. The Buddha said this. So just briefly to say, this is a very standard kind of introduction to a sutta. Here we're aware of speaking to a group. It could be a mixed group of the Fourfold Sangha. He's addressing the monastics. So in a way, this gives us a sign that this is going to be a particular kind of teaching. Yes, a teaching that is for us who are serious practitioners. So the Buddha said this: mendicants, when you don't truly know and see the eye, lights, eye consciousness, eye contact, and what is felt as pleasant, painful, or neutral that arises dependent on eye contact, you are aroused by these things. Actually, I just have to stop right there because that's a very full teaching right there. So just to unpack it a little bit, friends. The Buddha's talking about the sense fields. So what comprises a sensory experience? We'll just go through that. We have a sight in this case. The sense object meets the sense door, the eye. The sight meets the eye. There is contact between them. And then a consciousness arises, seeing consciousness arises, all in one moment. And the seeing consciousness arising gives rise to some kind of response. That is some kind of feeling. Pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. This is the completeness of the experience, isn't it? And the Buddha pointed out that full experience of one sense experience of, in this case, seeing, is comprised of all these components. Without these components, it doesn't happen. So just going back to the sentence here. So the Buddha says, when you don't truly know and see how this experience is comprised, of the eye, the sight, the eye consciousness, the eye contact, and then the feeling that arises dependent on that contact. When you're not aware of this process, when we don't understand the cause and effect nature, the impersonal nature, the momentary nature of this experience, this process, then one is aroused by these things. The word here for aroused is sarajati. Sarajati, rajati, it comes from raga, from desire, passion, lust. Sarajati is an abbreviation of sang, raga, with desire, with lust. Both translation, thing like one is overwhelmed by lust or infatuated by lust. If anyone's looking at Bhikkhu Bodhi's translation, you can tell me. He puts it quite powerfully in this way. Bhante Sujato, rather than saying we're inflamed by lust, he says we get aroused. But either way, what's being described is that we react, isn't it? We react. So when we're not aware of the process, flowing on with samsara, just flowing with the experiences that we have, then we are going to be aroused. What does that mean in terms of the felt sense of an experience? It's either pleasant, painful, or neutral. We'll be aroused to react. Pleasant means I want more. Unpleasant means get me away from it. Neutral might mean I don't notice it, or I'm just a bit indifferent to it. So this is the crux of this sentence. If we don't know or see what's happening, then we're going to fall into reactivity. Any questions or comments thus far? Okay, friends, we'll continue because we've only just started. Back to the sutta. So I'm going to recap. The Buddha begins this sermon, this teaching. When you don't truly know and see the eye, sights, eye consciousness, eye contact, and the resultant feeling, pleasant, painful, or neutral, that arises, then you're going to be aroused by these things. Someone who lives aroused like this, fettered, confused, concentrating on gratification, such a person accumulates the 5 grasping aggregates for themselves in the future. So again, this is a huge sentence. So let's look at it in detail. So we are reacting to our experience. If we find we're in a way overwhelmed by the experience, the Buddha says if we are fettered, we are confused, and we will be concentrating on gratification. So I think of this in a way as the mind that both dwells in the experience and is bowled over by the experience, pleasant or unpleasant or neutral, but also the mind that jumps ahead into the future. I want more, I want less, I'm indifferent. It's gratification focus. Or you could say it teaches about the gratification, the danger, and the escape, which many of you will have heard of, this triad. He speaks of the gratification in terms of focusing, dwelling on the advantages of the sense realm than seeing the danger. So focusing on pleasant feeling that we get when we have something that we like, and making much of that, rather than considering the fact that this might change, well, this will change, that within, therefore, that the pleasant experience, there's a seed of suffering. This a wise person has an awareness of, and thus focuses not just on the gratification, but also the danger of aligning ourselves, immersing ourselves, attaching ourselves to the sense realm for our refuge, for our sort of place to rest and to be. So the Buddha says here, when such a person is aroused by experience, focusing on the gratification, we are actually trapped. We're imprisoned. We don't have freedom in this process. We're on autopilot. We're victims of Mara, you could say. And such a person accumulates more of the kanda for the future, more birth, more becoming, isn't it, friends? It's more suffering. The 5 khandhas being the body and the aspects of the mind, these get accumulated. The body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness itself, they're all growing when we allow ourselves to react to our experience, to focus on the gratification. Any questions or comments at this point? You can see this is such a rich teaching already, isn't it? Yeah, there's a lot here to contemplate and bring it back to our own experience. See how you can relate to this. Speaking at the moment about sights, how we might respond to beautiful things we see, ugly things we see. As we'll see, the Buddha is going to refer to all the different sense doors, also hearing, smelling, tasting, touch, and thinking. How we can be overwhelmed by these experiences, react to them. Okay, friends, we're going to go back to the sutta. Let's continue. So it goes on. So someone who is reacting, who lives aroused in this way, fettered, confused, concentrating on gratification, accumulates the 5 grasping aggregates for themselves in the future. That is the khandha I've just explained. We're growing, becoming. The Buddha goes on, and their craving, tanha, desire, which leads to future lives, pono bhavika, future becoming, again and again. This craving mixed up with relishing and greed, taking pleasure wherever it lands, this grows. Pali. I'm just being told that my internet connection's unstable, so I'm going to go slow. The Buddha goes on to say, their physical and mental stress, torment, and fever grow, and they experience physical and mental suffering. Friends, when one does not truly know and see the ear, how that sense door functions, bring up pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feelings that we may or may not react to. When one does not know and see how the nose responds to smell, brings up nose consciousness, and we respond to that. Tongue, the body, and the mind. Ideas, mind consciousness, mind contact, and what is then felt as pleasant, painful, or neutral that arises dependent on mind contact. In all these ways, all these 6 sense doors, we can be aroused by these experiences. And so, fettered, confused, concentrating on gratification immersed in our experience. We accumulate the 5 grasping aggregates in the future, and the craving, which leads to future lives, mixed up with relishing and greed, taking pleasure wherever it lands, grows. The physical and mental stress, torment, and fever grow. And we experience physical and mental suffering. So there you go. This is the first part of the teaching. To me, this is an extraordinary encapsulation of path, or rather samsara, which is pointing, therefore, to another way, the way out, which we're coming to. So this is what's happening for us. Can we relate to this? Do we feel bombarded by a certain experience? Is it, do we notice how we might be reacting and how that feels? Do we feel the fever? Do we feel that it's painful? Or do we find ourselves leaning towards gratification, actually and delighting in our experience? And it's not to make anything wrong, it's just to know, how is it for me? Sometimes I may be able to let go of the delighting and relishing, and sometimes not. Sometimes I can get really caught up, perhaps, and obsessed with getting more of what I like. And can we know that? Can we take in this teaching, the Buddha's telling us it's creating maybe some pleasure in the moment, maybe some prospect of future pleasure and delight. But look at what he's saying, that actually in that process, we are fortifying becoming, fortifying rebirth, growing suffering. And it may not be that we can relate to this, but we can certainly take in the teaching and consider. And let's remember how the Buddha taught so often to bring in sense restraint, to reduce these experiences. And to notice, he invites us to notice how peaceful that is, how perhaps that is preferable, to the fever. Mima.
I was, I don't know, I just really felt it in my body when we were talking about this, when you were reading it, because I work with people, and I maybe it's to the extreme with addictions. One of the things, I'm a state provider and I work with gamblers that are addicted. And the fever, when you mentioned the fever, they get caught up, and even while they're in the addiction, caught up in the addiction, even when they're not, they're always planning what's the next, when's the next time, how much money, how can I cover this? How it's like totally consumed by an addiction, and it could be any addiction. And I think also, like in general, looking at with the social media, the scrolling, that's something I was reading an article a couple weeks ago. The person that invented the scrolling aspect of it regrets having done it, because he didn't realize how that was going to addict the mind to have that type of stimulation. And I think it's very powerful because people can't put it down once they get started. It's like a fever. They get going and they don't even realize that they're caught, nor how much time has passed while they're on it. So I thought, I don't know, I just really felt it, because I think everyone's going through some form of this, where they're not even aware that it's happening to them. Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you so much, Mima. Those are really great examples. Can we relate to them ourselves? And yeah, that getting lost, isn't it? It's like when the people not noticing the passage of time. I've spoken to people who talk about doom scrolling. So it's not even cheerful. It's actually really miserable stuff. And they'll be late at night, keeping themselves awake, not getting the rest they need, because it's so addictive. Yeah. it's very problematic. And you must have great experience of the fever working with people as you do, just to see that, how agitating, confusing, and people can lose their sense also of what's right and wrong, can't they? They can break precepts, we would say. They can steal, they can cheat, they can lie, really let themselves down in ways they would hate to do if they weren't addicted, but because of the drive, the push,
and the suffering
it's a tragic
afterwards.
thing.
The suffering afterwards, like when they hit a moral, it's like morally they know they're wrong, and suicide is so high, because there's no way out. They can't find the way out. They can't. The hundreds and thousands, and I have millionaires that I've worked with that the money's all gone and they can't pay their mortgage. You know, people that we live in the desert, and it could be 126 in Palm Springs, and they don't have air conditioning, and the babies don't have diapers. I mean, and so that kind of this sutta really got to me, because Buddha's talking about it like they don't realize that I mean, everything about it, the site, the site in the casino, the lights, they provide the food, free food, drinks, everything is like they're totally absorbing, like swallowing them up, and they're not aware that it's happening to them. There's so much suffering in that.
Oh, seriously awful. Yeah, it's like tragic, isn't it? It's like people are being duped and almost misled, and it's very sad that people will do that for profit, to make money out of other people's vulnerability, because we're all vulnerable in this way, aren't we? We're all very in danger, honestly, unless we can see this. And I shame, Mima, the how awful that people take their own lives because they cannot conceive of a way out. And honestly, this teaching is the way out for us, but how many people get the chance to actually open to it,
Yeah,
so
working with them like that, I use the practice when they come to me for this. I use the practice of mindfulness. Like, what does the urge feel like? Where is it in the body? You got to catch it before you act on it. Volition, you have a choice. What are your options? Like helping them crawl out of there. And it's just amazing and rewarding when they follow instructions and they're able to get sober.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing.
It takes great strength, doesn't it, to emerge from such places, but of course that possibility is always there. And I'm just really delighted to hear that you're using the Dharma, you're offering the Dharma to these people, because actually, people who are steeped in samsara in this way, people who are addicted, can understand the suffering, right? Because of the awful things that are happening for them, the way they're mistreating themselves and others. And so there is an openness. There's an understanding of this noble truth of suffering often. It's like people in prisons are often very open to meditation practice because they've got not much to do and they're trapped, literally, physically, isn't it? But also there is this profound degree of suffering for people, and suffering does open doors. And so it's worth remembering, isn't it, when we come across, see people who are suffering tremendously, that's exactly the time to bring in the Dharma medicine. And maybe there's an openness where there might not be for people who are happy, living very contented middle class lives, sort of thing. So wonderful work that's being done there, Mima, and may many more people benefit from the Dharma in this situation. Thank you. Venerable, did you want to come in?
Yes, I was thinking about when you read through this sutta, I do feel that there's gratification in the Dhamma.
Yeah.
So need to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah, this is such a beautiful sutta. Friends, let's return to the text. and find out the alternative possibility. So we've heard about the immersion, the addiction, the fever, the suffering. The Buddha goes on to say, when one does truly know and see the eye, sight, eye consciousness, eye contact, and what is felt, painful, pleasant, or neutral that arises depending on sense contact, one is not then aroused by these things. One is not brought into fever of wanting, of desire. One is not overwhelmed by these things, reacting to these things. Someone who lives unaroused like this, unfettered, unconfused, concentrating on drawbacks, concentrating on the danger, adinawa. Such a person disperses the 5 grasping aggregates for themselves in the future. They are dispersed. They are not growing. They are diminishing. They are fading away. And the Buddha goes on, and their craving, desire, which leads to future lives, mixed up with relishing and greed, taking pleasure wherever it lands, this craving is given up. Their physical and mental stress, torment, and fever are given up, and they experience physical and mental pleasure. So there is the way, and it sounds simple. It's quite the process for us, I'm sure, for all of us, to recognize this cascade of input, contact, consciousness arising, feelings as a result, and the immediate programming to react to those feelings. We have been programmed for so very long in this way. Our conditioning is very strong. However, isn't it wonderful to see, to just read this piece of text, that actually there is a way out, and all the fever, the suffering, the accumulation, we could say, of lifetimes, can be stripped away, can be worn away. And what is the felt sense of this process? It is I would say, a beginning of relaxation, of peace, of well-being, of calm, and of insight. We get to calm down a little bit. There's a bit less heat, a little bit less speed. Of the wish, the craving to get what I want is something we can begin to observe rather than simply blindly following it. And in this observation, we can begin to free ourselves up. It's like we don't have to go there. We don't have to get the next thing. And just isn't it, I'm sure you could all speak about this in the same way that I am. It's like to begin to recognize that we don't have to follow our desires. We start to recognize that actually when that desire arises, it can be very strong, it can be very compelling, but actually if we stay with it, don't act on it, what happens to it? It fades away. It arises, it lasts for a while, and then it fades away and disappears altogether, and that desire is no longer in existence. So we can see what Mima's friends, clients need to get to see, that actually there is a way out, that desire is not going to overwhelm us if we can just stay steady. We can watch that desire's life and then watch its death, and we're free. To that extent, we're free. And this happens once, it happens twice, it happens repeatedly, and we start to free up and notice how we are no longer slaves of desire. It's like the wheel of samsara starts to slow down. We might have moments when we can recognize that this can stop altogether. And actually, in a way, when we're mindful, it stops, because we're not acting on desire. When we're, say, meditating and thoughts about what we want or don't want come to mind, and we're not doing anything about them, we're watching them arise and pass, then the wheel of samsara gets to stop right there. And then, if we continue to develop our mindfulness and free ourselves from our slavish following of desire and aversion, what happens then? This wheel can start to go in reverse, and we start to recognize all the past karma, all the compulsions from the past will come up for us. If we're not satiated, we're not following our desires in the present, then all the past compulsions will reveal themselves to us over time. So it's as if we get to clean up, cleanse and clear the past karma. So this image of a wheel we can relate to in this way, We're not on the treadmill when we're mindful and we're observing the feelings and not acting on them. We're no longer on the treadmill, and we can even step right off. We can even reverse the whole process and come out of all of this suffering. I hope that makes sense. I'm just riffing really this teaching. I'd like to just ask if there's any comments or questions at this point before we go on. So this is the person who's freeing up. This is the practitioner. This is us, friends. And the Buddha describes it so well for us, doesn't he? It's like the Four Noble Truths are right here. There is suffering. Can we recognize the suffering? Number one, what's the cause? Yes, it's this desire and aversion, this reactivity to feeling. Come, senses, giving feeling, giving this upswelling of tanha, of craving. That is the cause of suffering. And what is the way out? It is to let go of that desire. It is to not react, not give in to desire, to see it for what it is. It's like a tyrant for us. Let's not allow this tyrant to dictate, how we live and what we do. No, let's turn our backs on it and start to free up. Okay, friends, let's go back to the text and see what comes next. So, recognizing the process, working with it, letting go of desire, we start to experience physical and mental pleasure. That physical and mental pleasure is not the same, is it, friends, as the pleasure of sense gratification. It is peacefulness. It is coolness. It is a sense of freedom, I would suggest. It is spaciousness. It is choice, real choice. It is mastery of the mind. The Buddha goes on, the view of such a person is right view. Right view being, of course, the understanding of the Four Noble Truths. Such a person has a grasp, has an understanding of the Four Noble Truths, and it is correct. Such a person's intention is right intention. Their effort is right effort. Their mindfulness is right mindfulness. And their immersion, their samadhi, their focus is right immersion. And their actions of body and speech and their livelihood have already been fully purified before. So this Noble Eightfold Path is fully developed. So this is very interesting. my goodness, if we want to follow the Eightfold Noble Path, we just have to wake up to these processes. Isn't that amazing? This is one teaching of the Buddha that's really very striking for me, is really pointing to the development of mindfulness, to keep practicing, to keep noticing how we are relating to the world around us through the senses and how we react to that, these experiences. Just that, if we can catch the moment when pleasant, unpleasant, neutral feeling is felt, and see how there is that inclination to move the direction of desire, stroke aversion, desire or aversion, and catch ourselves and be aware of that. Just to notice, how does it feel? What's it like? In doing this, we are following the Eightfold Path. We have right view. We have right intention. Right intention, the intention to follow the path, I would say. The intention to renounce desire, to let go of reactivity. Because already anything that's of the nature of ill will or cruelty, these aspects of right intention, they have already been purified. After right view and right intention, we have the mental development path factors. Normally it's the sila factors, the aspects of virtue, but here the Buddha goes straight into saying that our effort is right effort. We know how to make effort. We know how to direct our attention skillfully in this practice. Our mindfulness is right and our focus is right. Such a person, someone who can be in this way on the ball, in this way mindful, in a continuous, consistent fashion, of course, such a person has a mind that is free from remorse and regret and agitation through wholesomeness. So virtue, we can see here, the Buddha says, a person who's virtuous will be able to practice in this way. Virtues are given. We can't practice in this way if we're not living a wholesome life. So we can recognize here, it's really pointing, isn't it, to how virtue is a foundation for us on the path. Virtue must come first. Keeping the 5 precepts. Keeping our speech harmless, beneficial, true, of course, gentle, pleasing, of benefit. Doesn't always have to be attractive for the listener, but generally is. But if we're giving feedback, it's always with kindness, awareness, right timing, honesty, sincerity. So our speech, polished, our actions, harmless, and the livelihood also. So look, if any of us are thinking, oh dear, I'm not there, I'm doing things that are unwholesome, I'm not able to keep the precepts, I'm doing a job that's really quite dubious in terms of virtue, then it gives us a chance to really reflect deeply on this and to recognize that we can start polishing and let's purify our virtue, because that will help us and enable us to have this degree of mindfulness that we can follow the Eightfold Path properly and observe these hearts and minds as we're assailed by experiences and be able to rise above, as it were, let go of our reactivity. This is the way we can do it. So if there's anything in our sila, in our action or speech or livelihood that is not really serving us, not allowing us to feel at peace, not allowing us to feel self-respect, giving us a sense of regret or remorse, then we can address that. And once we address that, we can start to notice the results. it's often, in my experience, it's often the case that precepts get polished and purified because of the pain that we feel as a result of unwholesome speech or action or livelihood. We have to feel that pain. That's the beginning of mindfulness. When I first started meditating, as many people experience this, there's a lot of suffering. I had a lot of suffering because of things I was doing or had done that were unskillful, harming myself and harming others. And that had to be dealt with first of all. That's the first thing. We have to clear the sila. We have to start acting in a wholesome way, speaking and working in wholesome ways, and also reflect on past wrong and put them right. This could mean simply within ourselves, recollecting and experiencing remorse, and coming through that with a clear understanding that we're not going to go there again. That will not be repeated. Or it may be making amends in some way. We can find our ways. And so this is the beginning of the path. And so here the Buddha is saying these path factors have already been purified. Then we can start to look at the momentary reactivity, the liking and disliking, moment by moment throughout our lives, and really sharpen our mindfulness and no longer be victims of Mara, no longer be enticed, no longer focus on the gratification, but focus on the danger. We do not want to invest our energy in the sense realm, do we, friends? We do not want to make our refuge here in these bodies and minds full of suffering. No, we want to develop our refuge in the triple gem. Awareness, Buddha, truth, Dhamma, and Sangha, the community of practitioners. Surround ourselves with good and wise friends and help each other in this way. Any comments, questions, or reflections at this point? Wonderful. Oh, yes, Daniel, go ahead.
I really appreciate this. I think, especially when you talk about sila being foundational, I think a lot of times people can be introduced to samadhi meditation before that and will practice it and gain maybe minimal benefit and kind of move on. And that's a waste of time rather than help. And how critical the sila part is of it, where if that's not part of your practice, then your meditation's not really going to go anywhere and will kind of be a waste of time. And so I remember Ayya talking about that one time, and I found that to be especially true.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel, for really highlighting that. Absolutely. One thing I would say is that we can sort of take some heart from anyone who has an interest in, say, meditation, because when we develop any of the path factors, if we get to develop a little bit of mindfulness, a little bit of samadhi, a little bit of focus, then it does incline us. It's like every path factor strengthens all the others. So if we develop a little bit of mindfulness, we have much more chance of noticing the pain and suffering that we will feel when we do something unwholesome. So in this way, one can hope that, if people come into the practice, I just want to meditate, I'm not interested in precepts and all that they, even through that process of opening to meditation, there's a chance, a likelihood, that such a person will begin to take in the teachings on sila. But I really agree with you that sila, and the Buddha emphasized this for us, didn't he? It is the foundation. It's the ground we stand on, because it provides this degree of peace and well-being that enables the mind to notice what's actually happening here. Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Okay, friends, let's return to the sutta. So the Buddha has said such a person who's practicing mindfully in this way with the 6 senses and the resultant feelings, observing these processes, in such a person, this noble eightfold path is fully developed. And he goes on to say, when the noble eightfold path is developed, the following are fully developed. The 4 kinds of mindfulness meditation, that is the 4 satipatthana, awareness of body, feelings, chitta, the state of mind, and dhamma, thoughts or dhamma teachings. This is also fully developed. These 4 foundations of mindfulness, resorts of mindfulness. Also, the 4 right efforts are fully developed. The 4 right efforts, that is, well, let's see if someone can tell me what the 4 right efforts are. I'm going to get started on it and you can come in. Okay, 4 right efforts. That which is unwholesome, if we have that in us, if we notice unwholesome qualities, then the effort to reduce them, get rid of them, let them go. If there's unwholesome qualities that have not arisen in us, the determination, effort to not allow them to arise. Yeah, and the wholesome qualities that we have, what do we want to do? Grow them. There's the effort to maintain and support and grow and develop the wholesome that we have, and the wholesome qualities that we do not have. We want to bring them to mind, recollect them, and bring them up, develop them, grow them. So these are the 4 right efforts. In such a person, the Buddha is saying, the 4 right efforts are properly being developed. So in this willingness to work in the way that we're told to work in this sutta with the senses, we're developing those 4 right efforts. We can see how that is so. If we're not following desire, we're not moving towards growing suffering, letting go of suffering. And the virtue has already been purified in such a person. The growth of wholesome qualities will manifest in the practice, and the reduction of unwholesome qualities will manifest. And as we go on with this list of qualities that get developed in such a person, practicing mindfully in this way, the Buddha says, so too, the 4 bases of psychic power develop the Iddhipada. That is Chanda, Virya, Chitta, Vimamsa. The desire for liberation, the desire for the path, Chanda, is developed in terms of our meditation practice. Chanda, Virya, the right effort is put in to our practice. Chitta, the heart is purifying and applying itself to the practice. And Vimamsa, the intention, the wisdom is applying itself to the practice. So these psychic powers, these great powers of mind that we have, are all directing themselves towards freedom, towards liberation. Also, he says the 5 faculties and the 5 powers and the 7 awakening factors are all developing, becoming fully developed. So mindfulness is a pivotal point of mindfulness of feeling and not reacting to the feelings, enables us to develop all of these, what are the 37 Bodhipakkhya Dhammas, that is like the supports for awakening. They're all growing. So all these good qualities grow for us. The 4 Indriyas, the 4 Bala, they're the same. They're these friends or powers that we have on the path. Do we know what they are? Faith, samadhi, concentration or focus, wisdom, mindfulness, and what's the fifth?
Virya.
Yes, again, effort or energy. Thank you, Venerable. So these are friends, Indriya, they're friends for us. And at a certain point, they become powers. You know, they become quite independent and they're growing as we continue to practice. And they are invincible. That is the nature of power. Invincible. They can't easily be shaken or deterred. So these 5 qualities, we will notice, friends. I invite you to bring them to mind. What's happening for you? Is your faith increasing? Your confidence, in this path of practice as time goes on? Is your focus increasing? Your ability to direct the mind? Is your wisdom increasing? Your insight? Is there a growth of energy, of the fascination with the practice, the enthusiasm for the practice that makes it easy to apply ourselves to the practice? Is that growing? And the mindfulness, are we growing in mindfulness? If it's the case, we can celebrate it, and make much of it. It's good to observe progress on the path. If this is not the case, then we can address it. So this is an invitation to contemplate these qualities for each one of us, for ourselves. And then the Buddha says the 7 enlightenment factors all also get fully developed through this practice of mindfulness. Feeling the feelings, not reacting, becoming masters of our minds. So the 7 enlightenment factors start to grow for us. And then there's a bit of repetition in these groups, but we can consider them as groups. So these 7 come together. Enlightenment factors. We may think I'm far from enlightenment, so these wouldn't apply to me, but that is not the case. When we look at them, what are they? The first one is mindfulness. This is an enlightenment factor also. And we can see how mindfulness grows with practice. Mindfulness grows mindfulness. Also, investigation of Dhamma. We're growing this enlightenment factor. Beautiful quality of the Dhamma that it leads us onward. The more we look, the more interesting it becomes, the more we want to follow this path. This investigation of Dhamma, this quality grows. Effort, energy grows. Rapture, well-being, a sense of well-being grows. Passaddhi, tranquility, peacefulness, relaxation, this grows. This quality of passaddhi. Samadhi, focus, the mind that will become one-pointed, becomes one-pointed more easily for us. This enlightenment factor. And lastly, upekkha, the enlightenment factor of equanimity. Can we notice this? As we follow this path of practice, we let go of desire, step free to greater or less extent. We're no longer pushed and pulled by wanting and not wanting. We see those imposters for the imposters that they are. Can we notice the equanimity, that quality of sensitivity, very aware, very awake, but not shaken by our experience, unruffled? Things happen, our conditioning, past conditioning would have resulted in us getting angry, getting upset, getting sad, getting afraid. Can we notice as these reactions disperse, lessen, diminish, what is the result? It is equanimity. We're calm, we're peaceful. Things that used to get to us don't get to us anymore. We can notice that. It's really worth noticing that, isn't it? It's worth noticing cessation of suffering when that happens. It's easily missed. Let's not take for granted these beautiful qualities. So upekkha, enlightenment factor, grows through this practice in this sutta. All these qualities, all 37, you could say, supports for awakening. The Bodhipakkhya Dhammas all grow, all hinging around this one point of mindfulness of feeling and not falling for reactivity. How amazing. Any questions, comments, reflections at this point, friends? Let's go on. As you can see, this is a very complete and a very full teaching from the Buddha. It covers everything. It's all in here, isn't it, friends? The Buddha goes on to say, in such a person who's practicing well, these two qualities proceed in conjunction. That is, serenity and discernment. That is samatha and vipassana. That is focus and insight. So I'll just stop there because this is quite interesting. We often have meditation described as having these two aspects, don't we? Samadhi, practicing, focusing, stillness, developing jhana, and vipassana, the insight, which is more of our day-to-day momentary experience, being present for that, aware of that. Often vipassana referring to body awareness or breath awareness, being present, being embodied. Samatha, more transcending form and finding mental one-pointedness, great states of peace and stillness. So here, the Buddha's saying that these two aspects of meditation, the focus and the insight, they come together. It's like the Indriya, the Bala we've just talked about, of samadhi and wisdom coming together. It's balancing. So when we're actually embodied, we're actually aware of the senses, the sense inputs, and we're at that pivotal point. Our awareness is on the feeling and how we respond to that. These two aspects of meditation are completely balanced for us. There is focus and there is insight. This is the way to practice, one would say. If we have too much of one and not enough of the other, our practice may not be so balanced. We might get, for instance, caught up in samadhi, in jhana practice, and forget all about insight. Or we might get caught up in developing insight and fall away from the practice because it's difficult, because we're not allowing ourselves to rest by developing samadhi, which is in its nature is very peaceful. When we focus our attention, this is peaceful. So to get the right balance. So this is very interesting, where the Buddha here says samatha and vipassana are in perfect balance. So friends, I'm going to continue a little bit further. These two qualities proceed in conjunction. Serenity and discernment, samatha, vipassana. Also, such a person who's practicing well in this way, they completely understand by direct knowledge. Those should be completely understood by direct knowledge. They give up by direct knowing that which should be given up. They develop that which should be developed through directly knowing. And they realize that which should be realized by direct knowing. And the Buddha explains the meaning of this. he says, and what are the things that should be completely understood by direct knowledge? They are the 5 grasping aggregates. That is form, feeling, perception, choices, consciousness. These are the things that should be completely understood by direct knowledge. So just to pause, so you know that is the first noble truth. What should be understood is suffering, is dukkha. This is the first. Here the Buddha is giving us the 4 truths in this beautiful way, this beautiful formula. Is to be understood, suffering is to be understood. The first noble truth. What is that? It is the 5 khandha. That is this experience, this body and mind. This is what we seek, strive, work to understand. How do we get to understand them? Through experiencing them, through presence, through mindfulness. This is the world for us, isn't it, friends? It's like the Buddha said, the entire universe is to be found within the framework of this body and mind. The 5 khandhas, this is all we can experience. This is our world. So this is what is to be understood. First noble truth. And then the Buddha goes on to say, and what are the things that should be given up by direct knowledge? Ignorance and craving for continued existence. This is what should be given up by direct knowledge. So here, avidya and bhava tanha are highlighted. This is the second noble truth. What is the cause of suffering? It is desire. Here the Buddha is saying it's the lack of clear seeing that creates bhava tanha, this aspect of desire which is beginning, which is rebirth, which is propelling us forward. He's focusing on this aspect. And it's very interesting to consider how it is that desire has this forward momentum. It's becoming energy. So we can contemplate that. And the reason we fall it and we allow the arising of bhava tanha is because of ignorance. So this is what is to be given up. We're to see clearly, let go of the ignorance and this craving for becoming, this momentum that carries us endlessly, on the treadmill of samsara, the treadmill of samsara. Second noble truth. How does Buddha then describe the third noble truth here? He says, what are the things that should be developed by direct knowledge? Serenity and discernment. These are the things that should be developed by direct knowledge. That's interesting. So here we have the 4th noble truth. So the 3rd and 4th are in reverse order. And the Buddha is saying that the end of suffering, the development of path, that is normally described as the Eightfold Path. Here he's saying discernment and serenity is the Eightfold Path, is that which should be developed. It's like the path, the practice, the prescription, the treatment that we need to follow in order to realize the third noble truth. So that's very interesting. Again, Eightfold Path, one could say, as compared to serenity and discernment here. And finally, we have the third noble truth, described here in this sutta as, what are these things that should be realized by direct knowledge? That is knowledge and freedom. This is what should be realized by direct knowledge. Knowledge and freedom. Vijja cha vimutti cha. So knowledge and freedom. The third noble truth, the end of suffering, is the letting go of desire. It is the growing of knowledge, freedom, understanding, knowledge being the opposite of ignorance. Awidya, vidya. So we let go of awidya, we let go of ignorance, we develop knowledge. And freedom is the result of this process of practice laid out for us in this sutta. Isn't it amazing, this sutta? It's so complete. And not only complete, but also giving us different ways of contemplating the Four Noble Truths. Bringing in all the supports for awakening. Assuring us that all of these qualities grow and that the end goal of the path of practice is possible when we work with these six senses, friends. Recognize the experience for what it is. Sense impingement, feelings, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. Conditioning, tendency to follow, ability to free up and not be duped by reactivity. The whole path flows from this place. And it's momentary, isn't it? This is a momentary experience for us. Either we're waking up or we're following the flow of samsara. And we have that choice. And the more we make the choice to free up, the more that these qualities grow, the more that path grows. And we're really helping ourselves moment by moment to keep developing the practice. This is a very encouraging sutta, isn't it? It's very, it's both inspiring and also very encouraging. It starts now, but we can be very sure that we're moving in the right direction if we practice in this way. The Buddha goes on, friends, to describe all the other senses. So we can apply. Now, we don't have time here and now to do this, but I would invite you to consider all that's come before in relation to the ear, hearing consciousness, the feelings that arise as a result of what's heard, and also smelling with the nose, tasting with the tongue, feeling with the body, and thinking. The mind, its ideas, the mind consciousness that arises, the feelings that come from that, from our cogitations, pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, and the programming that inclines us towards growing, the pleasant, and letting go, neutral, and moving away from the unpleasant. So listen, we don't have time, but we can consider each of the sense doors. For some of us, we have predominance of one over another. Then be certain aspects of our experience that really dominate. For a lot of people, sight is very dominant, and also thinking. And so it's really helpful I think it's wonderful, actually, the Buddha always starts with sight, but not to forget to apply these teachings to the mind and to thinking. Because so much of our world is, appearing to us or manifesting for us in this way through thinking. And we're reacting to our thoughts all the time till we recognize this process. So let's remember, to let the mind observe the mind. And a lot of disentangling, a lot of things come from this, watching the mind and all the other senses as well. So friends, to conclude the sutta, the Buddha goes on to say, these are the things that should be realized by direct knowledge. This is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants approved what the Buddha said. Ewam. This is it is great. It is not long, actually, the way we receive it in print, if we were reciting this, it would take a lot longer because we would go through each of the senses. And so it repeats basically 6 times over. So it's 6 times the length of the written text, which is just like a couple of pages A4. It's a relatively short sutta, but it is a great sutta. For me, I would say it's both simplifying the practice, and also we can recognize that it brings in all of the teachings of the Buddha. So it's magnificent teaching. I encourage you to consider it again and again, read it through for yourselves. And I don't know about you, but I find every time I read a sutta, different aspects will stand out. There'll be a message in there, if you like. There'll be something I need to reflect more upon. And it's different every time. So this is a good sutta to dive into again and again. Any comments, questions, reflections? We have another 10 minutes or so. Thank you for your message, friend, on the chat. Daniel, can I invite you? I'll just invite Daniel. Yeah.
I was wondering if you could talk earlier this morning. We did some mindfulness meditation, and you talked about purification of the mind and heart through mindfulness meditation. And I've heard other monastics references. Could you talk a little bit more about that process or what that's referring to? I'd really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah, this purification of the heart, this concept of purifying the heart is really, what sort of pointing to. It's like there is, in a way, I feel, effort to be made, path factors to be developed, learning to understand the Dharma to the extent that we can apply ourselves to the practice. And then there is there is all that conscious effort and understanding that goes into our practice. But then there is a certain amount of, how to say, it's like we set up the conditions, we put the right conditions in place. It's like with Sila, we live a wholesome life as best we can and keep polishing our precepts, our behavior, our speech, our work that we do. We're setting the conditions in place to enable us to allow this process to take place, which is the process of purifying the heart and mind. I would say actually that in Buddhism, there is a sense of a kind of essential purity that is there, that has become obscured, that is obscured by ignorance, that requires us, or that drives us to keep moving in samsara, to keep reaping the rewards of that, which is suffering. There is this compulsion that we have. And yet, that is what is obscuring this possibility of freedom, of true understanding, of freedom from suffering. And when we put the conditions in place, when we follow the Eightfold Path, that aspect of the Four Noble Truths, we develop the Eightfold Path, then we're enabling the obscurations to slowly subside. And this is, one could describe this as a purification process. One could say coming back to our essential nature, or the truth of the way things are, seeing clearly, developing knowledge, coming out of ignorance. So it's a process that is described in so many suttas, where the Buddha gives us the practice, tells us how to practice, and then we can, with faith, with confidence in the teachings of the Buddha, put that practice into practice. So practice mindfulness, develop samadhi, make the right effort, live a virtuous life, grow in wisdom, hone our intentionality. So have our compass set on Nibbana, on letting go of suffering. We can put all of this into place, and then the process is not in our hands. We're not deciding, how quickly I come out of anger or grief, or, how this process unfolds, but this purification process is enabled. It's like we can't say how long it's going to take, or when we're going to attain various stages of realization. That's not in our hands, but we can certainly set the wheel rolling in the right direction and make sure to keep putting in the effort, to keep poking it, to make sure it keeps going in that direction and keeps moving toward Nibbana, toward liberation. That much we can do. And this is what comes to my mind as a way of describing this process of purification. It's almost natural, so long as we follow the teachings and put into practice those teachings. I hope that's helpful, Daniel.
Not only to Daniel, actually. It's beneficial to us for his question. Thanks for asking. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So it's almost the time now. Today, we're very grateful and very honored to have Ayya accept our invitation for this teaching. This is my first class with Ayya and first time meeting Ayya. I feel this is valuable, and I can see myself re-energized today. Recollect again the teaching of the Buddha by the explanation of the Ayya. Thank you so much, Ayya. Very appreciate. And we really wishing that could have you in future again to guide us in the Dhamma. Everyone, please join me to pay honor and respectfully to Ayya for her spending this precious time with us, teaching the Dhamma. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So besides, before we end this meeting, I would like to make a small announcement for Dhammadharini. On the 18th of October, this Saturday, there's a Katina Day in Aranya Bodhi Hermitage, Jennor, that morning to 4 p.m. In November 2nd, there is a event in Dharma College where there is a reception of Arahant Mahapajapati Thiri relics, and then we will have a meditation together and pay homage to the relics. Also, there will be a film showing. The film is about the Buddha Mata film. So everyone is welcome. It's at Dharma College, Berkeley. And in December, we will celebrate Sanghamita Day, where Dhammadharini would offer a program on request for those who wish to be able to see and meditate together with the relics of Arahant Theri Sanghamita and Arahant Theri Anulatisa. And the location will be in Dhammadharini. Yeah. So this is my announcement for now. So hope to see every one of you again next week. Stay healthy and keep on the path. Never give up and never stop. Keep on striving. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you, Ayya.
Thank you.